Hello everybody, and welcome to the censored channel of Jeffrey Saunders. You won't find my videos listed anywhere on the sides or in recommendations, so if you're here, you're probably a subscriber or you just stumbled onto this site. But in any case, this video is about what happened at Chiloe Island off the southern coast of Chile. There's all kinds of headlines about this a few weeks ago. There's many stories on the internet about it, and basically it was a fiery ball came out of the sky, supposedly hit the island. I don't think it really hit the island, but it started 7 fires. Okay, so we'll go over the articles and see what they have to say and what they don't have to say, and then I'll tell you what I think did happen, because it's kind of obvious, really. But the deception too, there's a few of these articles, I think they all sprang from one and then had their own versions, but basically they all say the same thing, that it wasn't a meteor. And then they say, after they say that, then they say it might have been, but nothing was found on the ground, no evidence whatsoever of any kind of debris, meteorites, nothing found, and no space debris of any kind was found. Keeping in mind, 7 fires were started. Now, I'm not sure how far apart the fires were, but I think they were like in pasture land. They're probably like a couple hundred yards apart or something. So whatever it was, it did somehow splinter out, and it did start these 7 fires. But there's absolutely zero physical evidence of any space debris or meteorites, I should say, at all on this site. Furthermore, none of the articles state exactly where on Chiloe Island this event took place. Here's one of the first articles that I saw over on Zero Hedge, and I'll kind of run through this and we'll just comment on them as I go. And I want to point out some things because these articles actually are my evidence of what I think happened there. Okay, scientists are baffled. That should give you a clue right there. They're either baffled, bewildered, confused, that an unidentified object falls from sky, ignites number of fires. Well, it was 7 fires, and this used to say it wasn't natural. And then typically when we hear about flaming objects falling from the sky, one comes to a very simple conclusion. It must be a meteorite, burning as it falls to the Earth's atmosphere. Well, there actually is a picture of it right here, and there's another picture we'll see in another article, but it's basically just a flaming glob coming down. There's no video, so we don't know how fast it was going, okay? So it goes on to say how they were shocked when a fireball plummeted all the way to the ground, starting a number of fires. Okay. Later on, another article says that nobody heard or saw a thing. So we have brush fires started. Okay, now here we go. On Saturday, officials from the country's National Geology and Mining Service reached the preliminary conclusion that the object could not have been a meteorite, for the simple reason that no evidence could be found where the fires were started by the luminous and incandescent object in the sky that fell in that location. Now, the geologists went to the site, they examined, didn't find anything. They checked all 7 points. They didn't find any remains, vestiges, or evidence of any meteorite falling. As part of the investigation, they interviewed residents who said they had not seen the fall of the supposed object or heard noises. So there's a contradiction there. Preliminarily, professionals ruling out the fall of a meteorite, and therefore the cause of the burning thickness has corresponded to that situation. So if they rule out a meteorite, what could it be? Well, all of these articles are common. They'll go ahead and first thing they like to do is take a stab at the alien theories, that it could be something alien, you know, and oh, it can't be that. Then we give a big history of falling objects from the sky. So even though absolutely nothing was found, no flaming space junk, anything, now they spend quite a lot of time going through these scenarios. There could have been a rocket booster and everything else. And here's another one. Not a meteor. Geologists can't explain fires. Now they're saying geologists from the South American country denied that a fireball had set pastures on fire. So that's outright denying that the big fireball that came down from the sky didn't start any fires, though. A team of so-called geologists from National Geology and Mining Service of Chile analyzed the site, dismissing the meteorite. Looks like we have pretty much a copy of the other without the history of space debris hitting the surface. There's another one. Fireballs reportedly sparked blazes across Chile. Now it's all the way across Chile. But it wasn't meteorites. So you can see right now that, what's true and what isn't now. Everything has to be exaggerated or changed somehow. Something was seen blazing a trail across the sky over the island last Wednesday. Started fires. Some residents concluded the two events were linked. I guess it wasn't those residents that didn't see a thing or hear anything. But they've ruled out that it was a meteorite, okay? The main idea here. And this has also been parroted here. Celebrated astrophysicist, Chilean of the Year, Jose Maza, had speculated on the National Broadcast Network TVN that the bright object seen on September 25th, 2019 could have been a meteorite, if not space debris, even though not one single shred of evidence of either was found. Okay, so this is your celebrated astrophysicist here. Maza could be right about the glowing sky ball, but connecting it to patches of scorched earth reported by Dalkahu residents isn't quite so straightforward. Oh, now one problem is that meteorites probably aren't all that hot. Well, they're not very hot, but they're balls of fire when they go through the sky. So something's not right there. Not in ways we might imagine anyway, and almost certainly not capable of starting fires. So they're coming up with a lot of reasons too why it couldn't be a meteorite, other than the fact that nothing was found. And then now we have some history here, billions of years floating about in the vacuum of space. Plenty of time to chill, so I guess they came in cold, and then they got hot. Well, that makes sense. They're cold, and they got hot. Well, that didn't tell me anything I didn't know. Then they go on about all this stuff here about meteorites hitting the ground. Nothing was found. Don't forget there were 7 fires. So they've completely ruled out meteorites, and now they're apparently going to rely on the geologists for samples. There's another, same thing. We have some history here, so they're going on and on. They're really pushing to, it's like all this information about meteors and meteorites and history of it. But what happened at Chiloe Island? That's what I want to know, okay? This one really doesn't tell us anything. Nothing at all. And Popular Mechanics decided to get in on it, and they're the ones that think you can take down 3 tall skyscrapers, one built like a fortress, just by throwing some kerosene on them. So that's Popular Mechanics, so you can take whatever they say with a grain of salt. They're unable to confirm the objects are part of a dissolved meteorite. Goes on about they saw the flaming objects, and then they do say that they were not. So we're back to right where we're saying before. No meteorites, no evidence whatsoever. Alright, oh, here's one. This one has a picture of, I assume that's a geologist taking some kind of samples. And note the extreme safety precautions here. This could be anything. Again, we've ruled out space rocks. It's right back, well, if it's not that, then it must be space debris. But everyone seems to forget here, nothing was found, okay? And then we have to go for the UFO, X-Files, alien stab here. We have Jose Maza again, saying that it was either a meteorite or space debris, period. No other choices. It's all it can be. And it goes on about the geologists taking the samples, and they're going to come out with conclusions later in October. And I would bet you anything, if they're going to find anything, it'll probably be spherules from melted soil. And then speculation runs rampant. This could mean that geologists found bits of metal that might indicate human-made space junk started the fire. After I thought we already learned that space junk couldn't start a fire. And honestly, take a piece of sheet metal, and go up about 100 miles up or whatever, and just throw it and see if it catches on fire. It really isn't going to do anything but hit the ground. For no reason at all, this guy decides he's going to go into the alien thing again. Even a new element created by a far-off alien civilization that likes to announce itself by torching bushes. And you know, what a cheap shot that was. And then if that wasn't clear enough, almost certainly it's not aliens, okay? Again, no evidence whatsoever here of anything at all. But it certainly isn't evidence. Well, I can see there's evidence that there was no aliens, right? The absence of evidence or whatever. And then they go on to saying how rare it is for space debris to even cause damage on the ground. But still, it could only be a meteorite or space debris. There's no other possibilities here in their minds. The actual article that you'll see with all the ads does have a few pictures here. This one in particular, it shows, not only does it show the glob in the distance coming down, but it shows a kind of a close-up of something fiery. That could be a sunset for all I know, but that's what we have. And you know, with meteors ruled out, then now we're back to, it's got to be a satellite. I'll go ahead and put some links down below for these articles if you'd like to take a closer look at those. Okay, so now we've seen the articles that were published for public consumption. We're basically told that it's not a meteorite, and then we get history lessons on space junk, but nothing was found, there's no evidence whatsoever. That is what we are told, and there wasn't any evidence unless it was meteorites and someone went to each of the fires and collected the meteorites because they want to sell them somewhere. That could be, but kind of doubt it. So we do get pictures of this flaming object coming in through the sky. Two pictures actually. Eyewitnesses account that saw it. We even have a celebrity astrophysicist telling us that when he says, well, it could have been a meteorite or space junk, with absolutely no evidence of it, no physical evidence. So I think that's crazy, and that's almost to the point of brainwashing or propaganda, because you can't say that something is when you don't have the evidence of it, especially, you know, you're supposed to be this really important person. I guess the question is, what was it? What could enter the atmosphere and look like a flaming blob and go almost all the way to the ground before it breaks up? And remember, one said there were objects, another said one. We saw two different pictures, so maybe there was more than one flaming object, which to me makes a lot more sense. And there was more than one, meaning 7 of them. Maybe they were in a group, you know, or maybe it was one and it splintered into 7 different objects. Well, the only thing that it could have been was a plasma glob. And they're never going to tell you that. A plasma glob is practically pure energy. There is no, it's not going to, when it hits, there's not going to be anything there. It has mass, but it'll basically, diffuses, and its energy is released, and it's not going to leave behind a stone or a piece of debris of any kind. So before it hits the ground even, most of the time they dissolve anyway. But as it's coming through the atmosphere, it's hitting oxygen. So that oxygen, if anything, is heating it up. So I don't think it's going to cool much before it hits the ground. When it hits the atmosphere, the temperature could be anywhere from 1 to, I think, 2 or 3 million degrees. I've heard as high as 4 million. It goes through a 20 million degree zone leaving the sun. So it wasn't cold when it got here, that's for sure. And it would, even if it hit the ground, it would burn. It would maybe make blast marks like this in solid stone in Peru. And you can see the gash. And if something hits, a glob of energy hits this, and it's 1 million degrees, it's going to instantly melt the surface of this stone, and it's going to make some gashes similar to this. And I would be looking for this kind of evidence on mountainsides or faces of mountains, anywhere where rock would have been preserved for a long time, because if this many hit megaliths, and if the solar storm was evenly dispersed somewhat, there should have been an awful lot of hits elsewhere, like in fields, mountains, in the ocean, everywhere. So if you're in the mountains and you see something like this on a rock, you'll know that's a solar storm damage, probably from a plasma glob that made it all the way through the geomagnetic field, which is weakening. I've already done the video on that. You should check it out. So this is a close-up of typical plasma blob damage. Notice the bubbling of the surface here. It got so hot so fast, and it looks like it almost turned it to ceramic here, that it just literally melted this rock on contact. And if you hit rock with thousands and thousands of degrees, instantly this is what happens. And by the way, if you want to know what plasma is and how it gets through the magnetic field, you should check out my video. I spent a lot of time making this video, and it's pretty much tells you everything you need to know, and you do need to know this. And in that video I do cover pretty much everything that you would need to know. The solar wind, plasma. A plasma blob is actually made from this material. This is really, it's like a concentrated solar wind. And the solar wind is already going 1,000,000 miles an hour. This stuff is shot out from the sun, I think, at 1.6 or 2 million miles an hour. So it can easily make it to Earth and more. So the sun is what's doing this. And apparently the sun's been doing this a lot. They're called solar storms. You can call them plasma storms. But it's basically when you have a coronal mass ejection and it reaches Earth, and these ejections can go any direction from the sun, and if Earth just happens to be there, it gets hit. And I always wondered if they didn't make these dolmens as just somewhere to run when a solar storm strikes. I think you would definitely be protected in there from plasma. And look at, they've got the biggest stones on the top, because that's where the plasma's coming from. So it kind of makes me wonder. Covered pretty well. If there was a plasma or a solar storm, this is where I would be. Extremely heavily built. In fact, I would be checking this area for plasma blob damage. If you looked hard enough, you'd probably find some, if these are being used for that. If not, then, you know, good luck. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. Now, I've been told that these are burial sites, but that doesn't make any sense, especially since nothing's been found in them. They're too open, and if you're going to live in one, isn't that just going to be a little breezy? They don't really fit tight. And if they can do all this, they could have, machined it down and stuff. I think these were just thrown together as quick, maybe somewhere just to sleep in the night too, to protect yourself from whatever might be roaming around out there. Dinosaurs, for all I know. But they're not, if you were going to live in there, you'd probably want to seal it up a little better than that. So there had to be some other purpose. And maybe those were plasma shelters. I don't know. You tell me. One of the biggest reasons that I think those dolmens were made as cover from solar storms is because solar storms have been happening on Earth since day one. And they're just now getting around to figuring out how to detect ancient solar storms. Okay? And I'll just kind of scroll through this. I'm not going to read every bit. But they have... Basically, this is just telling a little bit of history of it, of solar storms. But then down here, researchers have found radioactive atoms trapped within ice in Greenland that suggest enormous proton storm attacks struck Earth about 660 BC. So they're able to narrow these things down to a certain time. Previous research found that extreme proton storms can generate radioactive atoms of beryllium-10 and chlorine-36 and carbon-14 in the atmosphere. Evidence of such events is detectable in tree rings and ice cores, potentially giving scientists a way to investigate ancient solar activity. So now they're starting to realize that solar storms are just another common event on this planet. And they can be very, very big. And it goes on to give us more dates and relative sizes of these things compared with this Carrington event. And you can look up the Carrington event. There's a lot of material there that could be read, so you can see what happens when a solar storm hits, because that's really our most recent big storm. Or you can just go to Wiki and look up the solar storm of 1859, which is the Carrington event, and it goes on to give you a pretty good idea of what you would see if one happened now. Now, these are solar storms. I'm mainly talking about plasma blobs striking the surface of the planet. As far as what happened in Chiloe and all of those pictures that I showed you with the gashes and the bubbling rock, that the only thing that could be is plasma. It's the only thing that can be that hot and coming from the sky. What else could it be? It's not a meteorite and it's not space debris, but they're never going to tell you that. So it's becoming pretty obvious that a major solar storm or plasma storm, especially the ones with the plasma balls penetrating through the ionosphere and actually reaching the face of the Earth, because our magnetic field is weakening due to the fact that we are destroying it by creating our own magnetic field within our geomagnetic field. Now, I don't have any proof that that's what's happening, but you have the deterioration of the magnetic field. It seems to be directly proportional to the advancement of our so-called advanced civilization, which is nothing but electricity, if you look at it. You take away the electricity, we have nothing. No phones, no nothing. That's an extinction event right now. With 7 billion people out there all depend on electricity, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. Well, that's an extinction event as far as I'm concerned. It's just the same thing as an asteroid hitting the planet, or whatever. Ice age, global warming, whatever. In conclusion, I would say that because there was no evidence collected whatsoever of any kind of meteorites or space debris, the fact that we have pictures of a flaming glob coming down through the atmosphere, we have something that was either 7 of them or traveling together, and if they were all glowing, fiery hot because they're millions of degrees, supercharged with electricity, and it just so happened that it just didn't dissolve out before it hit the surface. So either it broke up or there were 7 of them and they all hit, maybe just minute, small, tiny pieces of it, but enough to start these little fires. And because this is a common event on Earth, we have evidence like this, which we need to look for more of. And I think the more that people start looking for this stuff, the more you're going to see. And it's going to become very apparent that the sun, any one of these CMEs, could hit Earth. When you have an injection, it doesn't go out in 360 degrees. It only goes out in one direction. A low chance that it's going to actually hit the planet. But it's been happening since the planet was here. So we're just going to have to get used to the fact that one of these days we're going to get hit. Sorry about the bad news, but it's just the way it is, With the absence of any debris at all, I'm saying that Chiloe was hit with a plasma blob. And that's all my evidence right there. Put your comments down below. Thanks for stopping by. Check the subscribe notification bell. I hate to promote that. I'm not looking for money. I'm not monetized or anything here, but even though it looks like I have 1,500 subscribers, I usually only get about 50 views on my videos, no matter what they are. So YouTube seems to be censoring me somehow. I guess they censor just by not showing you, on the sidelines or in searches and things. So like I said at the beginning, if you stumbled here, great. Check out some of my other videos too. But as far as hits go, it doesn't matter to me. If something goes viral, I got nothing to gain by it, except that more people get the word, Having said all that, my next video is going to be on the geology of Petra and the Sikh. That should be very interesting. So if you're going to Petra, you need to see this next video, which will be out in the next day or two. If you're like me and can't afford to go to Petra, which is in Jordan, all you're ever going to see is what's on the internet in pictures. And it's just nice to know what you're looking at when you're looking at the pictures. If you know the geology, know what kind of sandstone it is, how it got there, how old it is, and so on. Yeah, it just makes it a little more interesting. You guys have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.